Info, because I click the links for Odyssey, BitChute, to join the channel, become a member, support channel in the various other ways, or Gab and Telegram. So we're going to talk about the AfroHobbits in a sec, but the one of the ways YouTube kind of works, and it's not working so well, is that if you upload videos, they don't get monetized, so they sit in this monetization limbo, awaiting monetization, which may never come. So the point is, if you become a member, these videos are all available to members only. Sometimes they just never get monetized, so they just sit in there and you go like, well, yeah, you could upload them without the monetization, which would be great. No ads. Yeah, but the thing is, it's YouTube's way of telling you that they don't like the videos because there's some politically incorrect stuff in there. So you're better off not making them public, just leaving them unlisted. But available to members only. They can watch it because the members watching the videos. If you're paying to be part of a channel, you're not likely to report the video. I'm so offended, but I paid $2 to watch these videos. Like, yeah, it's probably gonna work out anyway. So click the links and you can watch the videos that never made it out to the public YouTube sphere, because the YouTube, they just gotten really they have changed over the years. If you've been paying attention and watching people's videos, it seems like, oh my gosh, people are getting more and more careful, more and more politically correct, and YouTube's kind of a less of a fun place, which is why I really respect people who kind of go out on the edge during live streams and put themselves out there, take some risks with YouTube, because like YouTube will just send you packing, which is great for us, because the more people that go to Odyssey, do Odyssey live streams, the better, because there's no filtration on Odyssey as long as you don't actively threaten somebody. So the great AfroHobbit genocide, which maybe they went the way of the Ant-Wives. The thing with this AfroHobbit is this story is a prequel. The Amazon, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars they spent on this show, which I cannot imagine doing well. It looks horrible. Where even the woke critics are looking at it and saying, yeah, it's a lot of cutscenes. A lot of cutscenes. That's not a good sign. You're not letting the story develop. You're not letting us see what the story is all about. It's some blonde chick in armor with a sword walking around. It's like, oh, she's some kind of elf. It looks vaguely Lord of the Ringish, except the characterization is not accurate. It's like that doesn't remind us of the original films, but whatever. They're updating. It's like, yeah, but the books were kind of masterpieces. It's weird when someone who's not, we're gonna subvert expectations. Yeah, but you're taking stuff that was written by a master, and you're not at that level. So you can't really do that because you're not at the level. Rian Johnson and Abrahams, or what are the guys, J.J. Abrams and Roundhead Johnson, they're not at the level of the original creator. And nobody in Hollywood's at the level of J.R.R. Tolkien. Like, not even close. You couldn't even, you're not even in the same room as him. Oh, but we're going to improve. But you can't do it. It's like you barely play 3 chords and you're going to improve on a Buckethead song. It's like, it's just something that you're incapable of doing, which is where you end up with Disney's, huge films that turn out to be softer return on investment than expected, and then later on as Solo came out, an actual out and out bomb, and which is Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time came out, and you never hear about that anymore, so I don't know what happened to it. And this Amazon, Amazon Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, where it's funny, if you put in woke and then you type the L, it comes up Lord of the Rings. So there's not a whole lot of expectations with this new Lord of the Rings. So this guy says, Lenny Henry says, Amazon's Lord of the Rings sees POCs taking up space in the center of a fantasy series. The self-awareness of these folks is really kind of lacking. And then, because taking up space makes it seem like, that's not a phrase I would use if I knew the lay of the land of the situation. Like, you're trying to do something where you're frankly not welcome to that space because it's not yours. It's an original story, and like you don't bring anything to the table. You just take away from the table. So, like, if I knew I was in that position of being an actor who was somewhere that he didn't kind of belong, and contributing to the destruction of the story, man, I would have a very, very big sense of humor and be very humble about it, and try to convince people that this is going to be done with the lightest and gentlest of touches, But as it turns out, like a lot of Hollywood actors really don't have that self-awareness. And there's somewhere down below where he's talking. This guy's just full of bizarro quotes. He makes some comment like, "If you can't see it, you can't be it." And I notice that a lot with the wokey-wokes in Hollywood. They just repeat platitudes. Just they parrot these phrases, and when you break it down, you go, wait, what did you just say? What was the point of what were you trying to say? If you can't see it, you can't be it. It's like, but that doesn't refute the argument that people have that this isn't Lord of the Rings. You don't fit in Lord of the Rings. This isn't the story. It's completely out of place. Well, you can't see it. You can't be it. Yeah, but that's just a deflection from somebody's very reasonable criticism. So the other side is like, even with the Star Wars has got some new show out, and like I could give two S's about not only Star Wars, which now I hate, even the word triggers me, Hollywood in general, at all, like period, unless you're telling there's somebody who's making a movie that's not the Hollywood, drinking the Hollywood Kool-Aid, which is like, well, that's 99% of Hollywood is on board with that stuff. So it just kind of means, oh, you're done with Hollywood totally, and Disney specifically, but Hollywood, yeah, you don't need it. I don't need it. I mean, it's up to you to if I don't understand how anyone could be, and I use Hollywood loosely to mean Amazon, Netflix, all the streaming stuff, all the theater stuff, all the whatever. It's over. Like, they're not. It's not that they might have good stuff and bad stuff intermittently, but it's that, how do you support an industry like that? And like, of course, you don't have to wink, nod, support it. You can go sail for it if you wish. But even that, when there's more bad than good, what's the point of even trying to waste 2 hours paying attention to something, giving it your emotional energy and that investment of time? It's like 90 minutes. I'd rather listen to a YouTube live stream, a Comics Gate live stream, than watch a 90-minute YouTube Hollywood movie, even if it's for free, because there's a lot of really stuff that's coming out that it's like, oh, it was okay. You want to see it again? No. Why? It was just, I don't know exactly. It just kind of missed. It was almost there, and it just kind of, like, all there's been like a dozen movies that have come out in this past period, post 2020, the civil disturbance, and you realize, oh, they're just, you eat them and there's just nothing to them. There's no there. Gertrude Stein. Anyway, so they these people, they love just parroting these stupid platitudes, and you just want to kind of look them in the eye. Like, I would love an interviewer to just be honest and go, what were you trying to say there? And they would probably realize that they were in for a little bit of a difficult interview, which means they would not be given that interview or another interview, which is why interviewers don't ask difficult questions. So, the AfroHobbit genocide, yeah, they're this is the prequel, and they're all, oh god, there's this image of this chick. They're oh, you just don't like her because she's a poxwox. Is it possible that she's a Mary Sue? Is it possible that the wokey-wokes can't write characters because they'll make every character a Mary Sue? Oh yeah, because that's what we've seen for the past, I don't know, 10 years at least, especially the past. Post 2016 was one thing, post 2020 riots was a whole nother thing. So people point out, so where are these poxwox hobbits now? Because they seem to be missing. Oh, that's a good question. Well, we can retcon the continuity. Are you saying you're going to violate the causality of the space-time universe? Yes, but that destroys verisimilitude, the willing suspension of disbelief. My God, man. Yeah, we're gonna do all that. We're just gonna do whatever we want. But there's such a reason that people kind of adhered to canon, which I didn't really understand, because I wasn't. You start thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah, stuff has to make sense in continuity. Otherwise, if you're anything more than a children's show, the adult part of your brain starts picking it apart, and once you find these fatal flaws, you're like, oh gosh, that just destroys the show. Anyway, so where'd the hobbits go? Well, that's probably a movie in and of itself. So if inclusion, and the thing was, like, Tolkien had a vision, And his kid, who recently passed, recently within the past 20 years, I think, had a vision. And I don't know if he had kids or his kids wanted to carry on the original vision, which is a shame. And, if they sold some rights to Amazon, very limited rights, actually, as it turns out. But when you're faced with that kind of money, when they say, like, yeah, we want to buy the rights for this limited sub-story for, like, $300 million, that's a wheelbarrow of cash. You look at that, and the family looks at that, whoever owns the estate, and okay, take it. I mean, because Tolkien's original work is still out there. You can't touch that. You can try to retcon it as much as you want, but those books are still out there. Anyway, so if inclusion ruins something, then you just can't do it, which is very politically incorrect to say these days, and is definitely a bridge too far for the woke crowd. But it's the truth, and I kind of feel the pendulum starting to swing back a little bit. You can't make Lord of the Rings with AfroHobbits. It doesn't make any sense. It's to the point of being absurd. Just, the theater is on fire. Please evacuate and head for the exits. And uproarious laughter. No, seriously, you can smell smoke. The theater's on fire. Please make for the exits. More laughter. I think even like left-wing people are looking at this kind of stuff and go, diversity, if they're in a crowd, diversity and inclusion, this is great, just diversity, inclusion, equity. And, then at some point they're going to start rolling their eyes and go, oh, dude, this is F slur, G slur, R slur. Because it is. You just, some things you just can't do. There's just a bridge too far. It doesn't make any sense because the story is English and European. If you try to be all things to all people, too many cooks ruin the soup. All it does is destroy it. This is going to bomb so hard. Now, let me clarify a little bit and seemingly contradict myself, but I don't think it's a contradiction. I say Amazon and Hollywood can't make AfroHobbits because they are so beyond the woke event horizon. I or someone like me could incorporate AfroHobbits into a European story or a Lord of the Rings story. Absolutely. Because I'm not a Bolshevik. I can include things and write characters without making them Mary Sue's or, anyone who's kind of in my my sphere of ideology. Because you don't make Mary Sue's, you just write the characters with good and bad points. Where people who are on this, these woke Bolsheviks, they can't, brown characters can do no wrong. So like the punchline is, well, every antagonist, everyone who fumbles is incompetent and stupid is going to be blonde haired or red haired, blue or green eyed. It's like it's just a standard writing trope of the past 20 or 30 years that you've seen creep into Hollywood and you see in comic books. Like I always thought, like, if I could crowdfund a study for comic books, I could just go through the past 10 years of comics and show you a timeline or a matrix of protagonist, antagonist, and hair and eye color. And you start realizing, the correlation is like 95%. So if you see certain hair color, eye color, you know they're going to be the antagonist. Light hair, light eyes. It kind of... There's more to it than that I can say on YouTube, and it's really once you see it, it's obvious, and you see it everywhere. Like, you don't even pick it up because you look at the cover and like, the story's told. There's a dark image on one side, and there's a fair image on the other. So that's the good guy and that's the bad guy in that order. Oh, what do you mean? Like all the time? Yeah, all the time. It's go read the 2 High Republic Star Wars comics. I mean, they're horrible. Don't read them. I mean, just glance through them. There's 2 separate. They're both called High Republics. Coming out of Disney Star Wars comic books. You can find them online, obviously. And you scroll through, and it's like, so this is feminist cancer, feminist propaganda. Men are just stupid and incompetent. And the other one is this blonde-haired kid is the bad kid, and these 2 Poxwalks girls are the heroes, and the blonde-haired guy is just the intolerant bigot. I feel like I've read that story before. Yeah, because you've read it 100 times before, and every comic in the past 20 years. Anyway, my point was that, like, yes, you could, if you wanted to incorporate AfroHobbits if you weren't woke. But if you're woke, you can't, because they're way too overboard. They just gild the lily, and they turn every character that's brown into a Mary Sue. Like I'm sure this character is just can do no wrong. Just absolutely can do no wrong. And I only say that because there's like 20 years of left-wing storytelling that proves that point exactly. Anyway, click the links for Odyssey, BitChute, and I will see you guys all next episode.